Senator Whitehouse. Senator Cruz.
It's long been said that hypocrisy is the tribute that vice pays to virtue. I have to admit I'm enjoying listening to my Democrat colleagues suddenly discover the virtues of the rule of law after 4 years where they brazenly supported the most lawless Department of Justice and the most politically weaponized Department of Justice our nation has ever seen. We just heard the senator from Rhode Island talk about the imperative of protecting judges. And yet not a single Democrat senator cared about the violent protesters that showed up outside Supreme Court justices' homes, including, I might note, female justices like Justice Amy Coney Barrett, threatening their family, and Joe Biden's attorney general didn't do a damn thing and refused to enforce the law to protect those judges. Why? Because he agreed with the violent protesters and he wanted to intimidate and threaten those judges. Professor Bray, under our Constitution, who should decide elections, the voters or unelected judges?
The voters are the ones who should vote in the election according to the laws, and the laws sometimes have to be applied by the judges if there are cases.
And under our Constitution, who is charged with making policy decisions, elected representatives elected by the people or unelected federal judges?
I think the question of policy, Senator, is a little broader than the particular case. So the laws should be enacted by Congress. That's where the fountain of law.
Policy decisions are the elected branches.
Right.
Law is the province of the court. Policy is the province of the elected branches. These are not complicated. Professor Bray, let me ask you this. Do the federal courts have power to issue remedies for people who are not parties to a case?
That's a question I agree is not complicated. They do not have that power.
Is the phrase nationwide injunction or universal injunction found anywhere in the Constitution?
It is not.
First chart. In the first 150 years of our republic, how many nationwide injunctions were issued?
My view is that there were not any until 1963.
0. Now fast forward. How many nationwide injunctions were issued in the entire 20th century?
It's a small number. I would think it would be a dozen, give or take. It's not large.
27, actually. Excluding Trump's first term, how many nationwide injunctions were issued in the last 20 years?
Far more than that.
32. From 2001 to 2024 against Biden, Obama, and Bush, 32. And how many nationwide injunctions have been issued in the last 2 months alone?
There have been quite a few.
37. Let that sink in. There have been more nationwide injunctions in the past 2 months against President Trump than in the entire 20th century. There have been more nationwide injunctions against President Trump in the last 2 months than both terms of George W. Bush, both terms of Barack Obama, and Joe Biden's term. We saw during the Biden presidency lawfare, indicting President Trump 4 times, using the machinery of justice to attack him, and that was an attack on democracy, because Democrats today hate democracy. Democrats today are angry at the voters for re-electing Donald Trump and electing a Republican Senate and a Republican House, and they engaged in lawfare to stop democracy from operating. Understand, this is the second phase of lawfare. Second chart. This is the second phase of lawfare. Now that their efforts to indict President Trump and stop the voters from re-electing him have failed, they're going and seeking out individual radical judges to try to shut down policies, and they are forum shopping like crazy. Give me any loon judge put on the bench by Obama or Biden who disagrees with a policy. We just saw a judge flagrantly ignore U.S. immigration law concerning TPS being revoked. U.S. law explicitly said there's no judicial review for that, but hey, they found a judge who says, you know what? We, the Democrat Party, we are the party of illegal aliens. We are the party of murderers and rapists and gang members, and the Democrat Party exists here to fight to keep murderers and rapists and gang members in your communities. There's a reason the Democrat Party is at 26% approval nationwide. because they put radical policies ahead of rule of law. Nationwide injunctions are an abuse of power. It is the judiciary acting as policy deciders, and it is incumbent on this committee and this body to rein in the abuse of power from these unelected radical judges who are trying to overturn the election because they disagree with what the voters decided.
Thank you, Senator Cruz. Senator Klobuchar.
Okay, that was a lot. Let me start with a few things. Number one, we love the democracy, and I believe what we should be having is a civil debate about how we can best, if Donald Trump wants to make changes to the government, we should be doing it in a legal way, not how he's doing it. And the only reason there's all these injunctions, Senator Cruz, is because he's violating the Constitution. Why would Trump-appointed judges...
Why don't you file them in red districts?
Senator Cruz.
Why? What did you just say?
Why don't you file them in red districts?
Point
Why
of
are the
order.
Democrat attorneys
Senator Cruz.
general seeking out
Senator Cruz.
left-wing
My
blue
esteemed
single
colleague.
district
Patient with
One
Senator
second.
Cruz's activities
Yeah.
in this building.
Senator Whitehouse.
He's entitled to.
I'm just going to ask for a point of order. Madam Klobuchar, Senator Klobuchar.
Senator Moody, we have debates on this committee. They occur regularly.
Let's let her have her time, and then we'll get back to that. If you want to wait, we'll get back to Senator Cruz.
She's welcome to
Senator
answer the
Klobuchar,
question or
go
not.
ahead.
It's her choice.
Go
I'm
ahead.
so
and I would
excited
encourage
to
you
be
to answer.
following Senator Cruz once again.
Excuse me?
But I will say
Excuse me? I didn't hear you. What did you say?
to be following him. He and I have a
I was
long-standing-
permitting you your time to continue. To be following him in order.
and I
Excuse
have
me.
a
Go ahead, Senator
long-standing
Klobuchar.
debate during hearing.
Go ahead,
That's
Senator
what I'm
Klobuchar.
referring to.
Go ahead.
And I will take more than my time, since he's taken more than his time to yell at me.
Go
So
ahead.
what I
I'll
will
mark the
say
time.
is that
I'm not yelling. I asked a question.
Senator Cruz, please. I'll give you time. Senator Klobuchar, I've got the time, and you'll be allotted
I
time.
am making the strong case that the reason all these cases have been filed, and the reason that these judges who have been appointed by Ronald Reagan, yes, they still exist, and the Bushes and Donald Trump, judges appointed by Donald Trump, have been making these decisions is because this is not legal. Donald Trump himself has used his social media account, the White House account, to post an image of himself wearing a crown saying, "Long live the king." The issue is that we do not live in a kingdom, and Elon Musk is not his court jester. Ours is a nation of laws in which no one is above the law. That is why 39 different judges from vastly different backgrounds, appointed by 5 different presidents, have made clear that these are illegal actions. And these judges have rightly blocked these actions. And it is important that we not lose sight of the underlying cause of these injunctions. It is not that these judges are crooked or lunatics or evil. Those are words used by the president and his allies. It is because the administration is violating the Constitution. What happens when they use these kinds of words? You see more and more threats against judges. And that is what we're seeing. That is why federal judges and the U.S. Marshals, who are responsible for protecting them, are sounding the alarm about a spike in threats against judges. This is serious. And unlike what Senator Cruz said, I'm remembering when the threat was made, the horrific threats, and the man was in Justice Kavanaugh's, on his neighborhood, on his street. On a bipartisan basis, we came together and got more funding for the judges and changed things so that they had more protection. So what he said was completely untrue in terms of Democrats and Republicans decrying violence. We didn't just decry the violence, we actually did something about it in response to a court that is run by Justice Roberts, who is a Republican appointee. So I think that kind of language actually makes the situation worse when it's not even true. But unfortunately, Senator Cruz left, so he did not hear my response to what was a lie. President Trump's attacks on these judges has made for some major risks for these judges. I would ask you, Mr. Panuccio, and not in a partisan way, just normal, as a partner in a law firm, have you ever taken to social media to personally attack a judge who ruled against you?
Senator,
That's all my question is.
Senator, thanks for the question. I think that attacking judges personally and not their reasoning, well, let me just give you a quote. I want to tell you, Gorsuch, I want to tell you, Kavanaugh, you have released the whirlwind and you will pay the price.
I've asked
you want to know, you won't know what hit you if you go forward with those awful decisions. That was something that Senator Schumer said, and I thought it was awful, and it unleashed a wave of violent threats against Supreme Court justices. I do think that's problematic, that kind of language.
I have no doubt the language is a problem on the left or right. I was just asking you if you have ever personally attacked a judge after you disagreed with the ruling. I'm asking you.
I have
if you
not.
did it. Thank you. And you believe that the proper recourse is to appeal when you disagree with the ruling?
When I disagree with a ruling on behalf of a client, I appeal.
Thank you. That was all I wanted. I was not going to criticize you. I believed that you would not have done this. And so that is my point. When people do this, and right now we have not just a random person on social media doing it, we have the President of the United States doing it. And I would just ask you, Professor Vladeck, in your opinion, are the judges who ruled against the president radical and rogue judges?
No. And just if I might, even though he has also left the room, Senator Schmidt suggested it was statistically impossible that Chief Judge Boasberg has been assigned to multiple cases in the D.C. District Court. I think that rhetoric is highly inflammatory, in addition to being just mathematically incorrect. There are 31 different cases in the D.C. District Court alone in which D.C. district judges have ruled against the administration. There are 11 or 12 active district judges. The notion that one of those judges would have multiple of those cases is not statistically impossible. It's statistically certain.
And if the president does not want to have judge rule against him, isn't the answer that he just follows the law?
One would think, but I think we live in a bit of an upside-down world at the moment.
Okay, so this hearing was titled in a very academic fashion, Universal Injunctions. And we can make it all academic if we want. Clearly we haven't with Senator Cruz's remarks. But I just want to make the point that this has a real consequence, that these cases that are coming before these judges. This is outside of their decision, which is based on the law and the facts. Sometimes they've ruled with the president, sometimes they've ruled against the president. But just to get it so people understand this isn't just some academic exercise about injunctions and if they're a good thing to have legally. Last month, a federal judge blocked the administration's plan to slash NIH funding for medical research. Could you talk about the impact if the judge had not been able to issue a nationwide injunction?
Sure. So Senator, briefly, because I know our time is limited, NIH hands out thousands and thousands and thousands of grants. If you required the recipients of each grant to litigate the rescission of each of those grants on a retail basis, you would have gaps in cancer research. You'd have gaps in all kinds of, work by the National Institutes of Health, because it's not possible that those thousands of the mass action by the government could be challenged on a retail basis in federal courts.
Thank you so much. And
could I get a second round?
Senator Klobuchar, I allowed you to go way over your time in order to make up, and I wrote it down.
Round?
No, ma'am. I just wanted to let you know that I did give you extra time and over what was taken up. So thank you so much.